Before we get into the video, I just wanted to thank all of you for the support and feedback. I uploaded the last video at just over 100 subs, and now we're on the road to 2K. It's actually insane, and I couldn't be more motivated to say the least. The whole point of this channel is to go through life and this everlasting fitness journey together, a place where you don't have to feel alone. I love to make videos to teach and share my own progress, but I love to hear everyone else's story as well. So, as well received as the last video was, there was something missing. Actually, a couple things missing. Crucial points that I didn't add that can't be left out of this guide before we dive into new topics on this channel. Let's not waste any more time and go over everything else that you need to know if you want to achieve the title of being aesthetic. I want to go over training techniques, my current routine, nutrition, and a couple other tips that don't actually have to do with inside the gym, but in everyday life. I mean, sure, we spend hours a day focused on what to eat and actually working out, but what about the rest of the time you're just living? Surely there's ways to improve that as well, and make the whole process of starting point, day one, to reaching your long-term goals faster and more enjoyable as well, right? First, I'd love to get into some comments that you all left on the last video, starting with Remigul. I'm not sure, but they're asking, if I follow an at-home program along with some cardio for a year, will it result in a glow up? The short answer is yes. Having a plan in place and dedicating yourself to it for a year will show incredible growth, not only in the way you look, but in character as well. So to answer this a step further, for anyone watching this who is trying to go through a fitness journey at home or with friends without going to a gym, I would say the main difference between training alone versus a commercial gym isn't the lack of equipment. Someone who is grinding with 110% effort in just a pull-up bar is going to blow by anyone who goes to a gym that doesn't give their all, doesn't reach failure, and just isn't as driven in terms of progress. It's being alone that gets tough after time. Getting yourself inside a gym with everyone's eyes watching you train just naturally will make you go through with it and try a little harder. This is coming from personal experience. I have a home gym, and during lockdown I had plenty of equipment to train, but I've had days where I'm tired and it's just me. No eyes, no one to witness it happen. No one knows you're putting in the work unless you show them, either with progress or filming. Setting a long-term goal of training outside of the gym will get hard and test you. It all comes down to how strong you are mentally and how far you want to push yourself. Your desired glow up won't result because of having a great plan in place, but of how much of yourself you want to apply to that plan. Next is Adonis asking about intermittent fasting. Great question. Intermittent fasting is putting your body's eating window on a schedule, something I love to do on a cut. Instead of waking up at 7, eating breakfast, then eating your last meal at 10 p.m. that night, you fast to set a window. Generally, I use an 8-hour one. So from 12 a.m. to 8 p.m. is when you reach your caloric goal. In the other 16 hours, you're fasting, so your stomach is empty or digesting and isn't receiving any additional calories or nutrients. The point of this is to have your body tap into fat storage and anything else excess before being completely empty, ready to break that fast by adding extra calories and starting the cycle over. From my past experience of telling people to try to fast, it's often misconstrued as starving yourself, which isn't true. You still eat all that you need to in that day, you just put it off for longer. I've also tried a warrior fast before, which is pretty unhealthy and results in a lack of nutrients, which is when you fast for 20 hours and then eat in a 4-hour window instead. Just don't overdo a fast and offset your normal breakfast time by a few hours, and you should see some benefits. Don't forget to drink tons of water when fasting, and if you want to, I recommend combining it with some light cardio in the morning. Let's talk about going into the gym with a plan in place to guarantee that success. Creating a split or program should be personal. Following someone else's program will work as well, but I recommend using professionals as reference in creating your own. Your split should target your weak points that are different from someone else's. So to achieve the best physique possible for yourself, this just makes the most sense. If your weak points are upper chest and calves, someone else's program might target them equally with every other muscle. Spot reducing fat isn't a thing. It doesn't exist. You can't target one point of fat on your body and lose it. The same idea, however, does work for muscles. When creating a workout split, target weak points. If you want a bigger chest proportional to your already developed back, make your body focus on recovering your chest more by changing the volume ratio. An example of this is less sets of pull downs in that week and more inclined dumbbell presses. Riffing on the idea of a plan, going to the gym a few days a week can show great results, but it won't happen if you go in without knowing exactly what you need to do. There's 3 levels to this preparation. Level 3 being advanced, getting you to the best physique you can achieve, naturally. Also depending on how much time you want to spend, but this also will correlate to progress, trust me. The lowest tier of this is the beginner, going through with getting a gym membership and listening to your motivated inner voice that desperately wants to start working. I congratulate anyone in wanting to make a change and going through with making progress to get there. There's absolutely no shame in going to the gym or buying equipment for the first time. It's hard working in front of people if you've never done it before. Don't forget where you started. Getting out of breath and hurting for the first time is tough. It's easier through time though. Remember that all change to our bodies come from changes to the environment around it. We are highly adaptable and demanding more and more out of your muscular and cardiovascular system at first won't be enjoyable at all, but you will adapt so that the next time your body is expecting the stress and shredding of the muscle fibers. It's hard to explain, but from my experience with years of working out, the pain in being sore after a workout turns into a dopamine rush. So to get back, the first level is making it to your workouts, but you have no idea what you're doing essentially. No form is developed, no workout structure, you kind of go machine to machine and just try to tire yourself out. At least you're making progress. Level 2 is where you can call yourself an intermediate lifter. Workouts have a purpose now. You have specific days dedicated to a muscle group and have formed a pyramid structure, the heaviest movements being compound, then your strong but not as strong exercises hitting the secondary muscle, and your weakest exercise last is your accessories. For example, a push day would go chest, shoulders, then triceps. You will make a ton of progress being consistent with this, learning something new every week, but there's a lot missing. Something key to achieve an aesthetic physique. The good old notebook, or notes, or whatever. Something I definitely wasn't doing when I was intermediate, is tracking my progressive overloads. This means recording your top sets and actually seeing the progress physically. It's creating a game plan that's foolproof. It's all about small goals that lead up to midterm goals that will bring you to achieve long-term success. This is true for anything in life, especially fitness. There are no shortcuts here. And if you truly want to see what your body is capable of, write down everything. Where you feel weak that day, how many reps of a certain weight brought you to failure, so that next week, your main goal in your head is to push past that number. It's just how the body works. Track where that failure was, break down the muscle fibers, rebuild stronger, and repeat the process. Now to get deeper on how I actually train, this is how I make my splits depending on what the focus is. Right now, you can probably tell that I'm training for an aesthetic physique, utilizing powerlifting, bodybuilding, and calisthenics. Let's start with a blank week. First, cross off your rest days. Off-limit days that you don't do anything except rest and recover. The amount of rest days you have is completely up to you, but I've noticed ever since I changed from 1 to 2 rest days, my plateaus pretty much disappeared completely and my strength went up a lot. Next, for each muscle group, write down your focus. What are your weakest areas? Or a better way to phrase it could be, what do you want to improve the most? For my legs, it's quads. My back, it's wider lats and biceps. And chest day, it's upper chest. After this video, you can go in the description below and I'll link a doc that has my full split in every little detail. But for now, we're just gonna go over a couple tips on structure and my favorite exercises for each day. First is pre-exhausting and a proper warm-up. Something I didn't really like to do at first, but I've found a love for doing before pretty much every workout now. Prepping your body for the extra 5 to 10 minutes before a lift is so very important. It makes you actually feel the muscle you're targeting 10 times easier and better as well, additionally taking away a lot of the risk for injury. The basics of my warm-up can be applied to pretty much each different workout, so I'll take you through a push day. First, you want to grab a band that doesn't have too much resistance. Beginning with the shoulders, I do shoulder breakers, which is grabbing the band palms down, going up and over your body. The goal for this is to work your hands closer and closer together each time you work out. Then I pretty much do the same movement, but one arm at a time. After that, I move to the rotator cuffs. Flip your grip on the band, palms facing up now, and do internal and external rotations. With your elbow tucked to your side, go one arm at a time and rotate it out, and the same thing, rotating it in. After that, I do a couple fly movements with the band to get a small pump in my chest and back. When you're done warming up with a band, pick 2 exercises to pre-exhaust your chest. I started doing this mainly because I noticed that my tris and shoulders would burn out faster than my chest would. Just naturally, my body would try to use them first on pressing movements because they're stronger. So pre-exhausting makes it much easier to get the pump and force your chest muscles to reach failure first before your arms. To pre-exhaust for each different workout, I do the same thing, usually 2 sets of 15 very light reps. For push days, I do machine flies and chest presses. Now, for the first actual exercise, this is where I go the heaviest. If you remember in the last video, I talked about using the best of both worlds to your advantage. So my first compound movement is really heavy, with my top set being anywhere from 3 to 5 reps. I should also note that I used to go for PRs every week, and I highly recommend not doing that. If you're going to train to get your 1 rep higher, I recommend waiting at least a month. That way you don't really see plateaus, and if you're training right, waiting that long and constantly overloading, you are pretty much guaranteed to grow past that old PR. For pretty much just building a physique and focusing on how I look, I've pretty much ditched the flat bench entirely. Sometimes I still do it because it is really enjoyable, but personally I replace it with a slightly inclined dumbbell press. Also talking about targeting the weak points again. It just has more range of motion, and both pecs activating equally is something I found to grow my chest faster. After a heavy press, I move into a fly. Usually I take cables over a machine just because there's more variety and variation. Also range of motion. For sets and reps, after going super heavy, going into more bodybuilding movements, I love a good 12, 10, 8, 8. Whatever weight I fail at for 10 reps, I try to get for 12 the next week. Progressive overload. Real quick, let's talk about timing. Timing is so important to have a good workout. Don't be this guy. Slow and controlled. Never forget that. Slow into the contraction, squeeze at the top, and slow on the negative. Take your time. To finish my chest, I do one more bodybuilding movement. Recently, I've been loving an incline Smith press. Then after that, I do some calisthenics to truly reach failure and get the full pump. Either a tough push-up variation or bodyweight dips is great. Take a little bit of a rest, then it's time for shoulders. I personally don't even really hit front delts anymore because they're so active during front pushing movements. So I do 2 exercises for side delts, starting with dumbbell side raises. The biggest mistake you can make here is swinging your arms just because bigger dumbbells make you look stronger. Drop the weight and slow and controlled. Again, add partials if you want at the end, but just don't swing around 45 pounds because you physically can. You definitely can't control that weight. Personally, I never go past 20 pounds and haven't stopped growing my shoulders. After 3 sets to fail, I do 1-arm cable side raises for another 3 sets. After this, my delts are pretty much done. I also should mention that you can hit rear delts on this day, but I usually just add them to my pull. And finally, triceps. You don't need a lot here because they've been working since the start of the workout, so I just end off with a long rope cable pushdown. Lean forward a bit and push your elbows back, and you will definitely feel the pain. It's funny how it takes up most of your arm, and to me still hurts the most out of any muscle being sore. And that's how I structure my workouts. Every week, from note taking, I pick out what didn't feel the best compared to other movements that week and pretty much just replace it. There's a million different ways to train your body. Don't feel stuck doing the same sets and reps of flat bench every week. I won't be going to nutrition in this video. I want to get a lot deeper into it, and I think for now, because I saw a lot of comments asking for foods to eat to get lean, next week I'll get fully in depth in its own video. I think it would be a lot better than just touching on it a little bit at the end of this. Before we wrap up, if you remember that I mentioned there's things to improve upon in everyday life, not just working out to become aesthetic. Here's a couple things that make a world of a difference. First is posture. Just look up a few posture correcting stretches to do every day and tips to make sure it doesn't get worse quickly. Being on our phones, computers, and even sleeping is detrimental to a great physique. If you aren't on top of it, your shoulders will round in, your lower lumbar becomes arched, and offsets a lot of the hard work you do to improve your physique. Start with sleeping posture, adjusting your monitor height, and not looking straight down to your phone every 10 minutes. Along with stretches to prevent poor posture, stretching in general is uncomfortable, but very important to make a routine of. There's no pump and pretty much is just painful. But in the description below, I linked this article to Stretch Effect that lists all of the benefits from stretching, along with getting a better physique. Stretching minimizes injuries, can make your muscles stronger, and just overall improve daily function and mobility. Being aesthetic is possible for whatever point you are in your fitness journey. Be careful with being obsessed and always chasing a lean look. Being low body fat year-round is possible, but learn to love the cycle of bulking, losing that look to gain muscle and strength, building back, then cut for a bit to reveal more each time. Eating smaller portions and less calories than you actually need can be harmful though, messing with your mood and hormone balance. Listen to your body and focus on feeling good rather than just looking good. Remember, we are only responsible for the effort, not the outcome.